And whereas in the exercise of these powers, the tribal council has adopted a personnel policy and procedures manual to govern the employment practices of the Oglala tribe. See ordinance 18-22, August 16, 2018, as amended. And whereas on March 12, 2020, the Finance Committee of the Tribal Council approved the attached personnel policies and procedures manual, which is intended to supersede ordinance 18-22, August 16, 2018, and referred it to the Tribal Council for adoption. And whereas the Tribal Council has considered the matter and decided to adopt the attached personnel policies and procedures manual, therefore be it ordained that the Oglala Tribal Council does hereby adopt the attached personnel policies and procedures manual. And be it further ordained that the ordinance shall go into effect immediately and shall supersede and replace ordinance 18-22, August 16, 2018, as amended. Certification.
At this time, can I request our attorney, Mr. Steve Dunn, to give an overview of these revisions in regards to the manual, the personnel policies and procedures?
Mr. Chair, this is Steve Dunn.
Yes, Mr. Dunn.
I wanted to start by saying I do think that there should be an additional be it ordained clause at the end. And I'm going to try to put that up on the screen. Which should say, be it further ordained that nothing in this ordinance shall supersede or affect the emergency measures adopted by the Tribal Council in response to the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, including but not limited to resolution number 20-70, affirming President's declaration of state of emergency, resolution number 20-75, temporary emergency declaration health order, ordinance number 20-14, COVID-19 weather and safety leave policy, ordinance number 20-15, telework policy, ordinance number 20-18, shelter in place COVID-19 health order, and ordinance number 20-21, quarantine ordinance.
Because that's not it.
And I have asked the tribal secretary to let me know if this is, or Stacy, if this list is complete. There are a couple of ordinances that I was not able to look at, namely 20-16 and 20-17. And if those relate to the COVID-19, then we'll include them here. The point is, nothing in this manual is intended to take away any of the special measures the council has adopted in regard to COVID-19. In terms of the manual itself, the major changes, or just the areas where changes were made, include the following. The definition of immediate family member was amended to make it more inclusive, which allows people to use bereavement leave in the case of funeral or other services for relatives. There was a clarification of the step increase policy for temporary employees. Clarification of the authority of the chief of staff between sessions of tribal council over personnel matters. A change in the process for adopting and amending job descriptions. a change in the Human Resources Selection Committee, the membership to include program directors with voting rights and others. In the conflict of interest policy for the HR Selection Committee, so that we avoid problems where a member of the committee has a conflict of interest with a candidate or vice versa. A clarification on the application of the Indian and veteran hiring preference policy. A change in the number of points awarded to fluent Lakota language speakers. A significant change in the background check policy to clarify that that only restrictions or job qualification requirements mandated by the ordinance itself or federal grants or contracts are to be used. A change in the vehicle use policy to conform to the financial management policy. There were clarifications about the application of the sexual harassment, workplace violence, and discrimination laws. A requirement of whistleblower training through the legal department. A clarification of the wage and salary policies, including step and grade increases and eligibility of new hires for step and grade increases prior to the expiration of their probationary period. There's a creation of a sick leave bank, amendment to the bereavement leave policy. There is an addition of in-house transfer that had been in the manual years ago, was taken out. Now it's added back in. And there are provisions for armored car and armored courier service employees that the Finance Committee recommended. Those are the major changes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. I do recognize you, Mr. Gibbons, but I believe, I didn't see your hand, Mr. Wilson, but, I heard your voice. Did you, are you asking for the floor? Mr. Wilson?
It's always been, it's always been. You just lose.
Mr. Gibbons?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Dunn. I like it that when it comes to the HR piece, that, the director has a voting deal, but, you know, I've attended a couple of these meetings, more than a couple, and I thought we put the personnel board back in. And is that, did we get the personnel board from each district put back into place?
There needs to be a better way for them to talk so we can hear them.
I know, I can't hear Glenn. Is he talking on the microphone?
Right there. Did you have your microphone?
Yes, he is on the microphone.
Mr. Gunn, are you still with us?
His cursor's on the He's still there.
Mr. Gunn? Mr. Gunn?
Mr. Chair, was there a question?
Yes, I had a question.
Mr. Gibbons, has the floor. Mr. Gunn, I'll ask him to repeat the question again.
Mr. Gunn, I like it that the director of the certain program when it comes to hiring with HR has a voting deal, but did we not put the personnel board back in to the policy? I thought we did that a couple of times.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, did you hear Mr. Givens?
Glenn?
Did you hear Glenn?
No.
Can you tell him the question?
When you hear someone talking about fresh corn though.
Repeat the question, Secretary, to
Yeah.
Mr. Gunn.
Or Tom?
Can somebody repeat the question to Mr. Gunn?
Maybe he can hear you.
I believe the question, Mr. Givens, was you was asking if the personnel board was back in place. Was that your question? Did you hear that, Mr. Gunn? Mr. Gunn? Mr. Gunn? Are you with us, Mr. Gunn?
Winchester rifle.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Can you, I don't know why, but I can't hear the question. Can you repeat the question?
The question was, is the personnel board back in place? Did you hear that?
Yes. So the hiring selection board will be a 3-member selection board. It's not the 9-member selection board that had been proposed for some time. There were a number of working sessions on the manual, a great number of working sessions on the manual, and there was, for a period of time, discussion of having a 9-member selection board with 1 member from each district. But after a lot of deliberation, involving members from not just the finance committee, but the council at large at a working session, the agreement was to keep it as a 3-member hiring selection board, but increase participation by program directors and other people with immediate supervision responsibility, and to have the other members of the hiring selection committee have relevant job skills and positions with expertise regarding the positions to be hired.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Givens?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I'm very uncomfortable with that because it hasn't been working in the past. And I don't know if we assumed that these expertise people were going to be on this board, and it hasn't happened. I'm very uncomfortable with that. So my motion is to put that personnel board back in so that our people across each of our districts can pick the most qualified person for that position. Thank you.
I do recognize your motion, Mr. Givens, and it was seconded by Mr. Apple. But before I run the vote, I have Cora, Whitehorse, and Jim Meeks.
Thank you. Glenn, this is a new thing. The other thing was a 3-member panel selected from within the tribe. right, Steve? And the new one is supposed to be from outside of the tribe. Right? Isn't that what we decided on at the last working session? We changed it like 20 times. And the only thing I don't see in here is the appeal process for the background checks. Steve?
Let me take up the question on the background selection committee. So on that one, if they're not outside people, this way, of course, they're permanent employees with comparable positions and skills, and that's what the committee and the working group agreed to. Specialized skills comparable to those required by the position to be filled. And then the third person is the supervisor, director, or other person with immediate supervision. So that's on the selection committee. And then on the background check policy, which is in chapter 11, that's where there's a provision for an appeal, and the people who will hear the appeal, I'm trying to get that. That's in it's on page 46 of the draft that you have. That would be a background investigation appeals panel consisting of 3 certified background investigation adjudicators employed by the tribe but outside the human resource department. And they'll be designated by the chief of staff. So I think that's where the idea of having outside the human resources department came in, and that's on page 46.
Okay. Okay, maybe that's where I was confused. I think that what about the CALIA standards? Is that in there somewhere that public safety will be following the CALIA standards? Because that's a whole nother manual. And we passed a ordinance to allow them to use it, so will that be reflected in this ordinance somewhere, or is that in the manual? Because I don't remember seeing that either.
Chapter 32 deals with public, I'm sorry, hold on one second.
Are you done with what we're
No, I'm not. I'm waiting for him to answer my question. I
Okay,
think he's trying to find the answer.
okay.
Yeah. I'm looking through the document to find where it's addressed.
Okay, because I couldn't find it. And I know we need to have it in there if we are going to continue to keep public safety under the tribe.
So, it's on page 142, chapter 33, and it says that they'll be governed by their own personnel policy, with the exception, of their employee appeals, they'll be governed by the appeals process in the tribe's personnel manual. So this does not replace the whole DPS personnel manual, but it does require them to use the appeal process in the tribe's manual.
Okay, and why is that? Korea doesn't have an appeal process?
This is the way it was adopted when DCS was taken back, when the charter was revoked and they were taken back by the tribe. So if you want to just completely eliminate DCS from the manual, then you could eliminate just 33 or clarify just that they will be governed by their own personnel policies. But when the charter was revoked, the decision was that they would still abide by their own manual, but the tribe's appeal procedure would govern.
Okay, then I guess that leads me to my next question. When we passed the Korea standards, a month ago, we allowed them to follow all of the Korea standards. And that included everything, HR, background, financial management, everything, right? And then we did pass a motion to allow them to go off on their own, but today they haven't. So we need to put them into our manual, right? Because right now, we have an ordinance that says they are pretty much standalone, except they're under the tribe. So they should have an appeal process in the Korea standards. Am I wrong?
I have a question on that, Cora.
Okay,
I think that according to what, the chief of police was saying, that they do have an appeal process.
right, they do, and I know they do.
Yeah,
Because they went through that whole darn manual. And that's why I know that it includes personnel and HR and everything.
everything,
Background checks, even the financial management stuff.
yeah.
That was why I made that motion previously to have them, give them back their charter and take them out from under the tribe. But if we're not going to do that, then we need to make sure that we have policies covered. So if they're going to be allowed to run under the Korea standards, then we need to add that into our manual that they follow those standards, including their appeal process.
I agree with that, because I think, we approved it, I know you made the motion, and the transition was to happen with the chief of staff, remember? To work with the Department of Public Safety.
Right, and that was months ago.
Yeah, I don't know what